There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Approval of minutes. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the minutes for the regular meeting of December 10th, 2019 and the special meeting of December 12th, 2019. Motion, please. So moved. Second? I'll second it. Any questions or comments about the minutes? Roll call, please.
Parker?
Yes.
Conklin? Yes. Canada?
Yes.
Havarti?
Yes. Recommendation statement. Following are recommendations that have been identified for approval as part of the consent agenda for this meeting. If a board member wishes to remove any items or item from this agenda for further discussion prior to taking action, please let either the superintendent or board president know. Approval of consent agenda. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the consent agenda of January 14th, 2020 as presented. Motion, please.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Conklin? Yes. Canada?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Havarti?
Yes. Superintendent special guest.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to recognize our Buckeye Students of the Month. If our administrators could come forward. And our students too. Okay, so we'll go in reverse order.
You're in the dark.
Good evening, everyone. It is an absolute privilege. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute privilege this evening to introduce to you Buckeye High School Student of the Month. Myself, a current 12th grader, enrolled in CCP Comps, CCP College Algebra, and AP Human Body Systems. Human Body Systems. Anatomy, I apologize. Which she did mention is her favorite class. Kenzie is involved in Buckeye High School's marching band as a drum major. She is also a member of our track and field team, and involved in shot and discus. Mackenzie has aspirations of heading off to Walls and or Otterbein in the fall, where she would also like to participate in track and field while studying sports physiology. Exercise science. Exercise science with the desire to one day go into occupational therapy. She would like to thank Ms. Valenti for her nomination for this award. But most importantly, she would like to thank her mother. And I will quote Mackenzie, I would like to thank my mom for being the absolute best. Congratulations, Mackenzie.
Danny is an exceptional artist and student. She always brings a positive attitude to anything she does and seeks to go above and beyond. She is respectful to her peers and teachers and is willing to help in any way she can. Her leadership qualities are contagious and brightens the classroom environment. It has been a pleasure to have her in class, and I am excited to see the great things she has in store for the future. That was from Mrs. Reiki, her art teacher. Mrs. Cates and I also wrote about how great Danny is as an office aide. She is a leader in Stand By Me and works to brighten everywhere she comes into contact. She is recognized as a leader by her peers and truly seeks to be a friend to all. Danny will no doubt do great things at Buckeye and beyond. Congratulations.
She wants to be a marine biologist someday. She does plan to attend the intermediate school in the fall. Congratulations.
We will take a short taking break so we can get photos of our students of the month. And we'll come back into session in just a few minutes.
Go out there and push conservation. Not necessarily always in our curriculum, but it's something that we can do outside of our daily lives that will better not only in our school, around our school, but also at home. So our mission is just empowering students within their community to make a difference in conservation education. So Madison's going to share us about what we're really interested in. Olivia.
We're interested in rigging the land lab, cutting down the trees to make log seats, creating an event for Earth Day, fundraising, cleaning up trash around the building, planting new flowers and plants, and making flyers and posters for around the school.
Okay, so some of the trees, so when we say cutting down trees, there's trees already down that are within our pathways. So what they had the idea of is cutting them up into like stump stools and painting them so that we can make like a classroom setting outdoors. So that way there's seating for students to learn about the curriculum outside.
We have accomplished a lot of things so far, like collecting a total of 3 pounds of trash around the school due to wrappers and papers blowing out of the trash can. We have completed 2 hours of making the entire path of the land lab, and we also cut down large branches that made it difficult to pass through on the trail and built like a shelter, like a tiki out of sticks and branches, like talking about habitats and shelters. And we removed over 100 feet of orange construction fencing that was left over from an original school construction project near the land lab. And our flyers were designed from us to display around the building and printed.
To add on to her, we also had the water and soil conservation representative come out to kind of like give us some ideas of what the land lab used to be and what we can continue to make it, and what some of the changes were. And just, they were able to learn about the history of it that I wasn't even aware of. So it was kind of cool to see like how the different groups from Boy Scouts to Girl Scouts and seeing how community members were getting together in our local backyard to better the environment. So in order to kind of keep that up, we needed students to kind of step forward. And these young ladies, plus we have some that couldn't make it here tonight, there's about 9 of us all together that we meet after school, and we just find a project. So there's a lot of projects that Alexa's gonna kind of give us a heads up on what we're kind of aiming for the continuation of this year.
We would really like to do some things in the spring, like creating a competition that would like revolve around being eco, not only outside of school, but inside the classroom. And we really wanted to like promote environmental stewardship. We wanted teachers to limit their use on paper more as like bringing in more plant life into their classrooms too. We wanted them to integrate environmental topics into their lessons, and it's also discussion of the teachers. We also wanted log seating in the land lab, like we were talking about. We wanted to paint them so that it'd kind of be a nice place to look at, because like, right now it's not. But I would like to say that it's very pretty in the fall. We wanted to plant native species to boost biodiversity. And we wanted to fundraise for the club expenses. And we wanted to get donations for supplies for the whole club and stuff like that.
Okay. One of the projects that they're working on currently is actually, we went outside last week, and it was like a little chilly. We went outside, kind of measured around some of the, existing flower beds to try to talk about scaling and how do you go about putting in different plants and making sure that they're native and something that's gonna continue on without a lot of, upkeep. So one of the things that we're learning in the process is how do we go about getting the plants if we don't necessarily have them ourselves. So we're empowering them to be able to go out there, do some research alongside of getting their hands dirty and out in nature. So we just want to share what we are doing for the community, and if there's anyone that would like to help support, reach out to us. My email is up there, and you can stop and see us. So thank you.
Our next presentation is Mr. Zepp with the Special Education Co-Teaching Initiative update.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brendan Zepp. I am the special ed director here at Buckeye Local Schools. I was asked to do a presentation tonight, and I thought that one of our strengths here at Buckeye is the way that we're doing co-teaching from the primary school all the way up to the high school. So if I just click this, we should be good to go.
The one on the right?
All right. So Buckeye Local Schools, we're going to talk about a little bit about the co-teaching initiative. And when I came in here, this is only my second year in the role as special ed director, but it had already started prior to me coming into the district. I took it on working with Christina College. We kind of worked together to try to put together some plans for the buildings so that they can get the co-teaching and having it set up properly and be successful. So some of you may be asking what exactly is co-teaching, and all the pictures that are in there are actual teachers doing some co-teaching. I sent an email to my staff and said, hey, anybody interested in sending me some pictures of you guys in action? And then Kathy Smith and several other teachers, Jennifer Greathouse, I think you might be in some of these pictures, took some pictures and sent them. So these are actual students and teachers working together. But co-teaching is defined as two teachers, and usually it's a special ed teacher and a general education teacher working together with groups of students. The goal of co-teaching is that you're going to share the planning, organization and delivery, and assessment of instruction, as well as the physical space. So you're in there together. So typically we'll have a special education teacher and a general education teacher working together with the students. And hopefully, when it's done well, it can be very powerful. Our goal here is to give the teachers the opportunity to be able to do it well. And that's my job, as well as Christina's. Buckeye co-teaching. Currently at Buckeye we have 25 co-teaching pairs, grades K-12, and primarily we co-teach in the areas of English language arts and mathematics, especially at the lower levels. At the high school, with some of the content they have there, we try to get them in like social studies if we have people available. Last year, as a group of administrators and myself, we focused on ELA and math, and then if we had some space in the schedule, we'd send biology and American history. Really try to focus on those end of course exams, especially at the high school. Why co-teaching? Okay. Well, Buckeye student achievement and co-teaching. So what I did was I looked into some of the things that we've done since co-teaching has been more used here been more involved here at Buckeye. As you can see here, it's not really, with the lighting, it's a little hard to see, but you just look at the numbers from 16, 17 over to 18, 19, you see a jump. And those are the amount of students with disabilities that are passing the proficiency test or standardized test that they're taking at that grade. Every grade has gone up. There's a little dip there in ELA 5. And if you also go diagonally, does this have a pointer on it?
No.
No. But if you go diagonally, you'll see like, so ELA 3, 17, 18, then next year they would be in 4th grade. So 18, 19, they went up to 29. The only class that really had a drastic dip, and that was because they had a lot of new teachers in 6th grade that year. I think part of the reason why, it is testing, so we can't really say why. But in the majority of the classes, most of the students have an increase. So that's good to see. That is what we want to see with the special education students. Also, AMO. AMO, you may be wondering what that means. That is annual measurable objectives. So basically, the state will give us a goal for a performance index. The goal was 59.6. This past year, we scored a 60.76. So we went up a little bit. From our last year's performance index, it did go down a few points, but overall, the state goal wants the students of your entire district to be 59.6 we're at 60.7. In math, same type of thing. Unfortunately, in math, we did go down a bit from 60.5. We did not reach our performance index. We only had 56.98. But from the year before, we did improve. So that's one way to look at it, is that we did show improvement in math, not quite the improvement that the state is hoping for. Preliminary score. So what they do is they look at students with disabilities, and with students with disabilities, after putting through all their calculations and things like that, we would have had a preliminary grade of A. Unfortunately, by scoring below the goal on the performance index, we were actually given a grade of B. So had we had that math score up, if you have either of those ELA or math below the goal of the state, you cannot qualify for an A. So they knock you down 10 points and you have to be B. So overall, it's the way the state scores it, but a B is very solid as well. So those are some of the things we're seeing data-wise by doing the co-teaching and getting it more involved in our district. More data to support the use of co-teaching. Gap closing. Gap closing is where we're getting closer to where the typical students are. As you can see, from 2016, we've gone from an F to 84% of B in 2018. In 2019, we're at 88%. The second one is the one I'm pretty proud of, and I had a small part in this, but I also know that the administrators and you guys had a really big part in making sure that this happened, but LRE that's the least restricted environment. So in 2016, 51% of our kids were in the regular classroom, 80% or more. Explain that. So basically, 50% of the time they were in we had a lot more resource rooms and things like that where kids were being pulled out. As we've gone more to co-teaching, these kids are getting into the general education classroom. As you can see, in 2018, 73% of our kids are in the general education classroom, 80% or more. So that's a good sign. We're getting our kids out of just being resource group taught and into the general education classroom where they're getting the same information as all the others did. And unfortunately, 2019 has not come out yet, but I have a feeling that number is going to either grow or stay at 72%. It definitely will not go down. And then our value-added score, as you can see, has gradually increased as well, up to a positive 1 in 2019. And this all has to do with the subgroup of students with disabilities. As a team, this past spring, in spring of 2019, we got together with Medina ESC, and what we came up with was a co-teaching team and a district vision. So I got together with about 12 other teachers. We got together and said, okay, how can we make co-teaching better? Well, one thing they wanted was more professional development. So what we did as a team is we went out to SSD8 out in Summit County, and they talked with us a little bit about how we can do it better and what we need to do to make our buildings more more sustainable for co-teaching. So they, as a group, this is not my vision, this is what our co-teaching team's vision is: to provide educational opportunities that meet the needs of all students to differentiate strategies and structure in their least restrictive environment. So that is our goal of co-teaching at Buckeye. These are the members of the co-plan and co-serve committee. There's myself, we've got administrators, we've got teachers all the way from K all the way on up to from the primary school all the way up to the high school. Those are all members of our committee, and we try to get together. It's a challenge for us all to get together at one time, but we're working to get together, and there's a email group that we all talk to. Teacher testimonials. So I asked my teachers, and this is Julie Schrader, she's a 3rd grade special education teacher. I asked them personally what some of their thoughts were on co-teaching. And this is from Kathy Smith. She said that using peer models has been a great source of encouragement for our special education students. It also allows access to all the grade level standards. Having the special education teacher in the room can also reinforce and differentiate lessons for all learners. So what they're able to do is take the lesson by the general ed teacher and do some different differentiation and interventions to help all kids learn. They don't just work with the special education students. Brittany Bevington, a 2nd grade setter, said, I'd say the greatest impact is on the general education students. Provides the opportunity for additional intervention for students who otherwise might not have access to it. They, as peers, become empathetic and helpful to other classmates. And that's another thing they become. They start to realize that everyone's a little bit different, but even though there's differences, we can all learn together. That was one of the stronger ones I saw. And then finally, Emily Goodwin, a grade 8 math teacher. Students and teachers both benefit from having 2 teachers in the room. 2 teachers brings in different perspectives and also allows for collaboration on ways to teach all of the different standards. When it's done well, the two of them, I know I was over in their building today, they get together and they plan together. So they'll get together, and Emily being the content specialist will say, okay, this is what we're working on. Tammy Potter, her co-teacher, would also say, okay, well, why don't we try this? So she may do something a little more hands-on or something like that. So it really has worked out pretty well. Moving forward, so what are we going to do to sustain this? We've increased consistency in co-planning. One of the things we learned when we went out to SSBA was that teachers need to plan together. We don't have co-teaching work. Co-teaching doesn't really work unless they're co-planning, working together once a week. So we've tried at the primary, at the intermediate, and at the junior high, it's getting there. But one of the things I noticed when I got here was that at the junior high and high school, there wasn't really a lot of time to co-plan. So I made that a priority. With the schedules the way they are, it doesn't work for every teacher yet, but we're working on getting it there, and that's something I'm going to make sure we try to make a priority. Co-planning period built into the teacher schedules. Like I said, our current ELA teachers, Dave Bosak and Dana LaPlante, they do have a co-planning time, and that seems to be working well. Scheduling. We're putting a priority on scheduling students on IEPs first. Once we were trying to put them in classes, and one thing we want to try to do is not make the co-talk class so large. Because if you have 15, 20 students on IEPs, you're calling it a co-talk class and there's 30 students, it's really challenging for teachers. And I know the primary, we've worked with them just recently, and they've really tried to cut back on the amount of students. It does make the job harder for all the general ed teachers because now you're getting all of these students into that classroom. But what it does is when you have 6 to 10 kids on IEP, you can really do a powerful job of co-teaching. But that makes our job hard, because we really have to comb through what kids would benefit from co-teaching. And then also professional development. We're continuing the development of our district co-plan for serve team, and we work with Medina ESC as well as SSBA to develop teachers to prepare. And Medina ESC has been great. Rachel Krause, who's the director of their special ed over there, she's offered to come over and work with our teachers and talk to them about things like that. So that is basically where we are at with co-teaching. I'm a big proponent of it, and I want to continue it here at Buckeye. I wanted to share some of the awesome things we're doing. Our teachers have put a lot of time into making it work so that, all of our kids can learn. So that's that. Any questions or anything? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mrs. Knapp, treasurer, please.
First, just an announcement, we finally have our assessed valuation from the county, came in much later than normal, but our school district total assessed valuation for calendar year 2019 increased by $101,391,290, equating to a 20% increase. Total district assessed valuation for calendar year 2019 is $602,813,813.70. So, that is a 20% increase is huge. We've been told that that's partly become a lag of the housing crash of 08, 09, still kind of catching up from the full valuation. So I don't think we'll see another one of these types of increases in a very long time. So, and that happened across the county. All the school district valuations went up significantly. So, also included in there is the Nexus pipeline valuation, for those of you following the Nexus pipeline. That is now included in it, and it's included as an appeal value. The Treasurer's Report recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education accept the Treasurer's Report as presented, including all internal budgets, amended certificates, and appropriations to the county auditor. As on file in the Treasurer's office, a copy of the documents are attached to board members' agendas as Appendix A. Adoption of the 2021 budget. The tax budget is a planning document, commonly termed the asking budget, and is of importance to establish the need for the collection of levy dollars or taxes. All funds are required to be included in the tax budget, but are not of relative importance in cases where they're not funded by local taxes. We have a general fund, an emergency levy fund, bond retirement fund, and permanent improvement fund involved with local tax support. This budget is required to be adopted by the Buckeye Board of Education by January 15th and must be filed with the county auditor by the 20th. It is recommended that the Buckeye Board of Education adopt the 2021 fiscal year budget as explained by the treasurer and shown in Appendix B.
Thank you, Mrs. Knapp. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or concerns for Mrs. Knapp?
You got done sweating, waiting for this to get here?
I'm all done. I know my tax bills, I know everyone is worried about if you're gonna get your tax bills.
Well, we did.
But
Indeed.
this was a late arrival.
Roll call, please.
Barto,
Yes.
Benada.
Yes.
Councilman,
Yes.
Kovarchi.
Yes. Public participation. The public is invited to speak to any agenda items or other school topics. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Direct questions will not be answered by the Board of Education members at this time. However, answers will be given at a later date as appropriate. Anyone who would like to address the board this evening? Yes, please.
Thank you.
We just ask that you state your name because we can't see you.
You can't see me? I'm Elizabeth Castle, Buckeye Junior High teacher and president of the Teachers Union. I just want to share 4 pieces of information. I heard from the primary building rep that the staff have been putting a lot of effort into the One School, One Book promo that's going to be happening in February. She wouldn't give me any more information, it's a secret. She said she wouldn't tell me anything else. Time and energy, lots of time and energy by the primary teachers put into educational holiday activities for the kids to make that time fun. The intermediate building rep shared with me that the garden club is accepting applications for new students for spring, and there is a huge interest. Sounds like it's growing by leaps and bounds. That's a really cool thing that they're doing. Junior high, I have to digress 1 year. Last year at Christmas time, one of our staff members, Tammy Potter, hosted a staff luncheon, and that was contagious. And this year, Sylvia and Jody put on a staff luncheon for all to enjoy, and it was incredibly well received. High school, I hear from the high school that they now have a science Olympiad team, like the junior high. Carrie Penbos has been running that, and Neil Paul is running the science Olympiad team. And he said they have their first invitational for the high school this Saturday. So we can look for some good stuff happening there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to superintendent's information items.
Thank you. We have our late arrival day is tomorrow, Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. We will be celebrating Martin Luther King Day on Monday, January 20th with no school. And item C is upcoming parent-teacher conferences. We have the elementaries on February 5th from 4 to 7:30. The junior high on the February 6th and February 12th from 3 to 6:30. And Buckeye High School from on January 29th and February 4th from 3:15 to 6:30. We are getting close to Buckeye Day, which will be on the first Saturday of March, which is March 7th. And we'll have more information coming out. If you can't wait for that information, please contact the office and talk with Vicki Galvin, and she will get you set up for the table and all the information that you need. And last item today is January is our School Board Recognition Month. And you might notice the beautiful flowers on our table. And we had our elementary students that made some very beautiful flowers with some thank you and appreciation for our board members, as well as they received a certificate from the state, as well as a delicious cupcake that hopefully will be a couple left on the table when we're done tonight. But we thank our board members for all they do. It's a lot of time and effort, and obviously we couldn't have a board meeting without a board. So we do thank them for all their effort and we'll see you next year.
Thank you. Superintendent's recommendations, please.
Item A, final reading of the 2021 school calendar. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the back of the 2021 school calendar as submitted. Copy of the calendar is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix C. Item B, approval of OSBA dues. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the annual Ohio School Boards Association membership dues for January through December 2020. A copy of the invoice is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix D. Item C, approval of OSBA Legal Assistance Fund membership. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the 2020 Legal Assistance Fund membership dues for January through December 2020. A copy of the invoice is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix E. Item D, approval of memorandum of agreement. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the memorandum of agreement between Buckeye Local Schools and OPSI Local number 216 for an interim transportation supervisor. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix F. Item E, overnight field trip. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve an overnight field trip for the Buckeye Junior High Wrestling Team for a tournament in Urbana, Ohio. The scheduled dates of the trip are January 17th through January 18th, 2020. There is no cost to the district. A copy of the request is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix G. Item F, approval of before and after school tutoring. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve a before and after school tutoring program funded by federal Title I funds for selected students in grades 2 through 6. Teachers will be paid a rate of $25 per hour to a total of $8,000. Parents will provide permission and transportation. A tutor list will be maintained. Item G, contract approval. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the school partnership program contract with Net Generation to give students the opportunity to learn, play, and enjoy the game of tennis. A copy of the contract is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix H. A complete copy of the contract will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item H, contract approval. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract with Common Lit Incorporated to purchase formative insights for grades 9 through 12. A copy of the contract is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix I. A complete copy of the contract will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item I, contract approval. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract with Art2Me LLC to frame, set up, and display Buckeye students' artwork at the Buckeye Day Art Show on March 7th, 2020. A copy of the contract is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix J. A complete copy of the contract will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item J, amended agreement approval. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the amended service agreement between Buckeye Local Schools and the ESC of Medina County, reflecting the increase in billable hours from 320 to 420 for English as a second language. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix K. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item K, approval of salary schedule. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the Buckeye Transportation Supervisor salary schedule as submitted. A copy of the schedule is attached to the board members' agendas as Appendix L. Item L, approval of job description. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the job descriptions for the District Prevention Coordinator / social worker. A copy of the job description is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix M. Item M, evolved contract addendum. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract addendum between Buckeye Local Schools and Medina City Schools to reflect an additional Buckeye student attending Evolve Academy for the 2019-20 school year. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix N. A complete copy of the contract will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item N, approval of LLA contract. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the contract with LLA Therapy to provide assistive technology evaluations from licensed therapists for Buckeye students during the 2019-20 school year. The copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix O. A complete copy of the agreement will be held in the Treasurer's office. Item O, PEP agreement addendum. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the agreement addendum between Buckeye Local Schools and the Positive Education Program to reflect an additional Buckeye student attending PEP for the 2019-20 school year. A copy of the agreement is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix R. A complete copy of the contract will be held in the Treasurer's office.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Motion, please.
So moved.
And second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or concerns on these items? Okay, roll call, please.
Parker,
Yes.
Councilman,
Yes.
Benada,
Yes.
Havarti.
Yes. Board action. Administrative contract. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve a 5-year contract for Jennifer Knapp, treasurer, effective August 1st, 2020. This administrative contract will be paid per the Buckeye treasurer's salary schedule at step 3. A copy of her contract will be held in the treasurer's office. Motion, please.
I so move.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Councilman,
Yes.
Benada,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Havarti.
Yes. B, approval of resolution. Recommend that the Buckeye Board of Education approve the resolution opposing the State of Ohio Ed Choice Scholarship Voucher Program. A copy of the resolution is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix P. Motion, please?
So moved.
And second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to make a little comment.
Sure, thank you.
The Ed Choice program, is one that takes money out of the public schools and moves it to private schools. It's a scholarship program where the students can apply for and get money, public money to go to private schools. In theory, there are good reasons for when we have districts that are failing, the needs of students, that there isn't an avenue for those students to still get a quality education or a good education. We are faced here with a situation where our report cards have made our district, a couple of our buildings fall into the Ed Choice program. I don't believe that this district is failing our students. That's the reason why this motion is on the floor tonight. So there's a little bit of a hesitation. Maybe that's the reason why there was a hesitation on getting somebody to place forward a motion. But I can understand the reason for Ed Choice. I just don't truly believe that this district falls in the category.
I guess the only comment I have on this is, as it is currently written, it leaves a lot to be desired. And so the reason school districts in the state of Ohio are putting forth a resolution like this is that we would like to see changes in this program. Not that the program wouldn't be of value at some times, like Mr. Barco says. It's just that as it's currently written, you have a lot of school districts who fall into Ed Choice based on items such as their value added. And it just needs to be looked at. It's not fairly stated, according to my personal opinion, as it exists right now, and it needs some tweaking, maybe quite a bit of tweaking, before it could be of value to school districts in the state of Ohio. So that's just where I stand on it.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Snell.
Barker?
Yes.
Conklin?
Yes.
Canada?
Yes.
Havarti?
Yes. Number 15, personnel.
Item A, certified personnel, recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following certified personnel items as presented. Number 1, employment, recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Bridget Lempner, District Prevention Coordinator / social worker, effective February 3rd, 2020. For the 2019-20 school year, Ms. Lempner will be paid per the negotiated agreement at Master's Step 1. Item B, certified substitutes, recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the attached list of certified substitutes / tutors recommended by the ESC of Medina County to work on an as-needed basis for the 2019-20 school year. Copy of the list is attached to board members' agendas as Appendix Q. Item C, classified personnel. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following classified personnel items as presented. Number 1, resignation. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the resignation of Karen Baldwin, bus driver and paraprofessional, effective January 17, 2020, as stated in the memorandum of agreement. Item 2, employment. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire David Wilkinson, mechanic, effective January 13, 2020. Mr. Wilkinson will be awarded a 1-year limited contract and will be paid at Step 5 according to the previously approved MOU as part of the negotiated agreement. Item 3, employment. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve to hire Karen Golden, interim transportation supervisor, effective January 20th, 2020 through July 31st, 2020, as stated in the memorandum of agreement. Ms. Golden would pay at step 1 of the transportation supervisor's salary schedule. Item 4, resignation. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the resignation of Dana Goldsmith, high school custodian, effective January 31st, 2020. Item D, classified substitutes. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the attached list of classified substitutes to work on an as-needed basis for the 2019-20 school year. Item E, supplemental contract approval. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education approve the following supplemental contracts, pending certifications as well as resignations effective the 2019-20 school year as presented.
Motion, please.
I so move.
And second.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, Mrs. Knapp, roll call, please.
Plummer,
Yes.
Benada,
Yes.
Barco,
Yes.
Havarti.
Yes. And donations.
Could I back up 1 second? I'd just like to recognize Karen Golden is here this evening and would like to welcome her to her new position and look forward to working with her. And anything you want to say, Karen?
I didn't prepare anything.
You're at a loss for words?
Item 16, donations. Recommend the Buckeye Board of Education accept and recognize the following donations to Buckeye local schools as presented. Item A, a donation of $2,000 donated on 12/16/19 from John and Barbara Steingas to the Buckeye Junior High Science Club.
Thank you. Motion, please.
So moved.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Knapp.
Barco,
Yes.
Benada,
Yes.
Plummer,
Yes.
Havarti.
Yes. Board comments. Do we have anyone that would like to,
I'll go ahead. Welcome, Karen. I know you've been with us for a while, but welcome to your new position. Hope everything goes well for you in that position. I'd like to thank the presenters this evening for a special presentation and the junior high presenters for their ecology club. Thank you for the board recognition items here that we've had. We certainly don't do this to be recognized. We do it because we have a keen interest in the function of our public schools. And I'd like to thank our new president, Mrs. Pavarti, for her wonderful taste in the decorative.
Yes, we did not plan this. Quite a shock. Mr. Barco?
Well, I know you can't read them from back there, but all of these have little sayings on them and stuff across the front here. About a month ago, I was going through some of the old ones that I've got from students way back. I think some of them are graduating now. But it's always nice to go back and look at some of these little things. Thank you.
Mr. Benado, your first meeting?
So far, so good. No, just thank you for the recognition, and we'll see.
And thank you to everyone. I appreciate your patience. If you couldn't hear me, I was maybe a bit soft-spoken. Not a role that I have jumped right into, but I'll get there. I promise. And thank you for the recognition. I appreciate it. And the children who made these, the various, mine is even on the back too. So very sweet. Thank you. And we would like to adjourn. Yes, I need a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Knapp, roll call.
Plummer,
Yes.
Benada, Barco,
Yes.
Havarti.
Yes.